Hey guys, previously on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some charts here. We can see the Puel multiple based on coin issuance over the past year, with halving dropped dramatically as expected, as it did on the previous halving, right into this sweet buy zone. Historically, it does drop further, but it also doesn't necessarily stay in this buy zone too long. So that's certainly something to consider in the bullish camp. Some of the little evidence in the bullish camp, at least in the near term, long term, super bullish, obviously post-halving, but in the near term, it's not looking so hot, obviously, with the price action today. This is the 2-year MA multiplier, so it's the 2-year MA and 5 times the 2-year MA. You can see it's hit all of the all-time highs pretty nicely and neatly. Basically, one way to trade this is you can DCA in anytime it drops below the 2-year. You can DCA out anytime it drops or rises above 5 times the 2-year MA. Another way you can do this is take this as the get ready signal for a buy and then buy it when it's above the 2-year MA. That's a bit late. That's a bit conservative, probably. Same with the all-time highs. You could say, okay, it's time to pay attention once it's above 5 times the 2-year MA, and then it's time to sell once it breaks below 5 times the 2-year MA. So the previous two drops, the invert head and shoulders here, the March 12th dump here, both captured the buy zone. So from that perspective, historically, pretty bullish. One thing that's concerning is that all 3 times it's dropped below the 2-year MA, it's been an extended period of time. It wasn't just these brief dips here. But overall, I think with the risk-reward profile, the upside is 36,000. Now this will continue to increase as price increases, if price increases. Something to consider 18 to 24 months from now. I did an article on BNC talking about long-term targets for BTC. I'll leave that in the description below, so you can check that out. Another fundamental metric I like to look at is MVRV, market cap minus realized cap divided by market cap, and it's a Z-score, so it's just an oscillator. 0, way above 0. You can see historically that the all-time highs again have been just completely blowing out this metric, and historically the buy zone has been pretty clean, just like it has for the 2-year MA multiplier. Again, the previous 3 times it's stayed in this zone for many months, whereas we just sort of dipped our toe in this time around. I still like the R with a risk reward here, R&R. The upside is massive based on MVRV potential. The sell zone isn't until it spikes above 7.5 and it's at 1.3 right now. So long-term outlook, very bullish from a risk reward perspective. Even if it drops down below again, it's still a great risk reward. One thing I've been tracking for, God, I don't know how long now, a year maybe at this point, looking at USDT above or below $1 and what happens to price in relation to that. So here's USDT, USD at the top here on Kraken. And logically you'd think, well, if USDT drops below $1, then price should rise because people are rotating out of Tether into crypto. That has not been the case. Perhaps this indicates that a demand for Tether is just generally bullish, or should be considered as a demand for BTC, because the exact opposite happened here. Tether was just surging above $1 for almost 2 months, and then as soon as it drops below $1, all of a sudden we start drooping, right? Pretty interesting. It'll be interesting if Tether goes further below $1 here and we go further down. That kind of solidifies the near-term theory. Obviously, in December through February, that wasn't the case, right? We were below $1 and we were surging. So I don't really think there's any signal here, honestly, other than what has it done lately. So if Tether's surging above $1 and price is surging, then I think next time in the next go-around, you can say, well, maybe when Tether surges again, we get all these Tether prints. The Tether prints have slowed down as well. Then we can say, okay, maybe we're bullish again. Tether's above $1, we're getting prints. That's kind of the logic you'd expect if you're bullish on stablecoin prints, as in they're creating more stablecoin. So I don't know. probably not worth looking at this on a day-to-day basis. I just think it's interesting. I posted this a few days ago. I posted it even further than that. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago maybe at this point. But originally we had been talking about this inverted head and shoulders here. Shoulder, head, shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder. Then we fell through that on March 12th. The next inverted head and shoulder plan is shoulder, head, shoulder, which would bring us back down below 8.1 to around 7.1. Like that's an ugly target from here, obviously, but I'm not going to rule it out. Now, before the chart pattern naysayers get after me, I know this isn't at the bottom of a trend. You know, an inverted head and shoulders here is much more powerful as a reversal signal than it would be here. It's also going to be massive. I mean, the benefit here is that it's going to be multi-month, like 6 to 8 months, something like that. But we didn't break above 10. You know, when we were talking about cup and handle, and people were like, the handle's too short, whatever. You know, it's not even really, doesn't really fit the cup and handle criteria in that it's coming off of a downtrend. In general, you want reversal patterns at the bottom, continuation patterns at the top. You know, both of these are sort of all over the place. It's just been a general mess. But even 8.1, you know, spike below 8.1, there's a VPVR here, there's pivot here to like some washout number, 7.5, I don't know, on low volume. And you can see, again, we're getting lower volume. It'd be interesting if we get lower volume on the third spike down. Now you can see, again, this doesn't match inverted head and shoulders criteria because you want the right shoulder, left shoulder to have the highest volume and then declining volume. So yeah, it's not perfect. It's worth a watch. Obviously 10K, massive psychological resistance. We're feeling that today. Looking at CME contracts coming up, it's only the 21st. In general, we have shenanigans as far as volatility, like 2 days before rollover. So it's a little early for this price action to really match like 29th expiry shenanigans. I fully expect more shenanigans on the 29th, which may be the dip opportunity when we typically roll over and, you know, like we did here where we just spike down, something like that. I don't know. Something worth considering to watch over the next 8 days to a week. Week to 8 days, we'll say 7 or 8 days. Looking at the cloud, I posted this yesterday as well on Twitter. Follow me at BraveNewCoin if you're not already. Talking about this C-clamp. So the TK lines here like very much to be close together. When they get blown out like this, that signals very similar to a bullish or bearish divergence. In this case, it was a bullish divergence. Price is oversold. It's far away from the mean. In this case, similar to now, it is overbought. It is far away from the mean. That's where its home wants to be. So its home wants to be around 7.9 here at the Kijun. And you can see over the past year, that's where VPVR has had the highest volume. You know, this stuff here, pretty decent volume on this spike down. So usually if we break the Tenkin and there's a C-clamp, we're heading to the Kijun. One backtesting evidence that we didn't was here. Obviously, you know, this was setting up for head and shoulders and it didn't actually break down. So that's the next thing to watch for. If this, then that, right? If it doesn't break, if it doesn't close below the Kijun and just sort of goes sideways and rises above again, that's something to watch for. But the expectation for me is definitely a retest of the Kijun here at 7.9. I think it also would wash out anybody who was long from this wick here. You know, spike to lower lows, nice Kijun bounce. This is what you want to see if you are in it for a multi-week, multi-month trend. These spikes quickly are not sustainable. You know, this very much an outlier of typically what happens. You can say most of price action for BTC happens 10 days out of the year, sure. But if you're hoping for a long-term trend, you're not going to see continuation like this without exhaustion, without pullbacks, without violent pullbacks. So you could even argue inverted Adam Eve here, measured move, and 1618 is probably close to 7.9. I didn't measure it out, but something else to consider. Looking at the VIX, this has continued to come down. This is what you want to see. VIX spiked to nearly an all-time high around March 12th. So, you know, everything dumped on March 12th. You know, Legacy was dumping before then, but there was more dumping post March 12th. VIX wants to go to zero. volatility wants to subside, reconsolidate, that sort of thing. So if we dump to 7.9, VIX keeps going down. I'm still bullish on 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, Kijun bounce territory, that sort of thing. Another thing you want to see if you get a multi-month trend, multi-week trend, is a breakout above the 200, a bullish 5200 cross, and then finally the go signal is a retest of the 200 to confirm support. You can see we were close to that here, right? Pre-March 12th, and boom. And we didn't actually get it in the April, May, June, July trend. So it's something to watch for. Get ready, get set, go. Same thing with ETH. Get ready, get set, go. It's around 183 in ETH's case. Not a fan of this M situation that's building on ETH. I did cut my ETH margin long this morning. Held that one for probably a little too long from, I forget where it was from, somewhere down here. But yeah, ETH chart looks a little different. BTC has a ways down to go to reach its mean, whereas ETH is kind of already there. And if BTC keeps dumping, like slightly below 8.1, I think ETH will just keep going as well. And really the most concerning thing for me on ETH is this Bitfinex. This is notional value, 331 million. It's at an all-time high in Bitfinex longs right now. So this means the long side of the trade on ETH is massively crowded and ready for a squeeze. Now this is 5x or less leverage, so it's going to take a violent move to squeeze these people that are long here. Specifically, post March 12th, there's a boatload of people who are long at lows probably. So they're probably in no risk of getting washed out of that. So I expect this probably to go higher. After 4 weeks from now, this will probably be 400, 500 million longs. Looking at pivots 200 cloud VPVR for ETH, you can see there's not really a massive volume support below the cloud here. So, broke the yearly pivot. What's the next support? The cloud. What's the next support? The 200. What's the next support? The Kijun at 173. So these are all the levels to watch on the way down. The exciting thing about ETH is that it hasn't actually crossed bullish on the cloud yet. So if we get this washout and slow recovery, it'll give the time for the cloud to cross bullish and time for the TK lines to get above cloud. It's a nice bullish long entry signal is what I'm trying to say. Very similar to here, how we spiked up, went sideways, cloud flipped, we got the Kuma breakout, we got the Kijun bounce. This is the slow type entry signals that I want to see with this system. You can see now we've got a pretty decent resistance at 210, 220, and really the big support's at 138. I don't think it goes that low here. There's no real inverted head and shoulders thing here. You can see you got lower lows over the past 6 to 8 months. So that's really what I'd be watching for, is that bullish cloud signals, consolidation around 200, 210 for the next move up, 2 to 4 weeks. Still watching Doge. It is in epic sideways. It's between 26 to 30 sats on any given day. The squeeze remains tight. Maybe this is the move. Maybe in these 2 to 4 weeks when BTC and ETH are deciding what the hell they're going to do with their life, this is when Doge finally makes its move. Just something to consider. I'm not shilling a position. I'm just saying I'm still holding this and not concerned at all. Even if this breaks lows, I think it's fine over the long term. Still holding XLM. Not really concerned there either. It looks less and less like coffee by the day. But you could argue, well, it's just repeating this pattern again. You can just reconsolidate. The upside is still 1450 sats or whatever over the long term. The upside for ETH is still 750 on the weekly cloud over the long term. So not really concerned in the least over the next 12 to 24 months. I think it's going to be a really great time. I think any dips are for buying here all across the board, not investment advice. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, hit me up on Twitter, and happy trading.